can't make it my swings, y'all. You can't make it my swings, y'all.
Yeah.
Well, that was different.
Welcome to the show, Creating ComicsGate Live. I am here today with the conjurer of the mighty Hail Salad, the camel toe of butt cheeks, the only man in CG that we know of that has drawn Ethan Van Sciver naked. Camel Moon, how you doing?
The only one publicly who has released.
Yes, exactly.
We don't know. You know, I
There
don't
might
know.
be some private nudity going on.
There might be lots of people out there who have naked Ethans littering
right.
their walls, their fridges at home. But yeah, how are you? It's nice to meet you. Well, no, we've met,
Good.
but yeah.
Yeah, well, we met. I was pretty drunk. I don't know. I don't think you drink, do you?
That's what they always say. They're like, someone was naked, I was drunk, I don't remember anything.
I don't have a whole lot of recollection of, but we had a good time on Michael Bancroft's late night comics.
Yeah, it was probably about a week or two ago. And
yeah,
that
guy does legendary Friday night streams. They're 6-7 hours long.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. And
Yeah.
I don't know whose book we were pitching that night. Maybe also
It went all over the place, man.
Yeah.
Also with us is my man Ink Spots. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How's it going, ComicsGate?
Yeah, it's going good. We got some people in the chat. Samir is in here. Jay Money, Gargoyle, Mogwai Centurion, DJ 2K Comics, Stephanie, Renee, Razmaz. Awesome to have you here. If you can, share out the vid. Let's get some people in here. We're going to talk some Hell Salad, man. We're going to have some fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. That's what I'm here.
So it's really interesting to me that you decided. I know when you were doing, it was the Space Ghost thing.
Yeah.
You launched a campaign that was going to be straight just the DVD like collection.
Oh yeah.
So what caused you to be like, no, you know what? I need to do it. Let's do a comic book here. What changed your direction there?
Yeah, I mean the Space Ghost thing blowing up was a blessing in disguise. But like I think what it was I was like, well, it's ComicsGate. It's the first word. It's comics. You know, it's not Blu-ray DVDs. So Blu-ray DVD gate. So I was like, well, I mean, look, the whole point of me being here, I guess, is like I like comics and trying to crawl my way into the industry before it totally shut its gates on anyone who was actually creative. And So I was like, oh, well, I mean, I'll just make a comic, right? I mean, that seems to be what people are interested in anyway, and I can actually add to the lore of the Hail Salad series. And I also felt it would be a little premature to offer a DVD because the Hail Salads take me 2 to 3 times as much effort and energy and time as a Space Ghost episode. So if I was to offer a full season of that, I mean, I don't even know when that'd get out. I mean, what do you consider a full season? 10, 12 episodes. I'm getting out maybe one a month because I'm still doing it as a part-time job on top of my main money job. So I was like, I can't guarantee that that's going to come out in a timely fashion. And I was like, it would be better also, I think, if I could build a little bit more hype and lore to the IP by offering like the standees, the T-shirts, and all that other stuff. And then I was like, I can do the DVD when the DVD is ready to go. In fact, honestly, it might actually be smarter and better because then I don't have this, sort of this monkey on my back saying like, okay, well, we promised 12 episodes.
Yeah.
We got to get
no,
that
I
shit
get
together.
that. Yeah. So like when you launch the DVD campaign, I'm assuming you might, it might combine the comic book and DVD. You're going to play around with that on the campaign.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is, I'll wrap up this campaign. When we go in demand, I'm actually taking everything down. The only things that I'll continue to offer is going to be, I think, like the newsstand edition of the comic and the T-shirts. And because I have so much merch in there, anyone who knows when you're like buying merch, you have to do it by quantity, and like you get your deals at your higher tiers. And so I kind of need to like do a one-off for those. Otherwise, you have setup fees and all these other things. And so that's not really much of a rolling inventory with stuff like that. But with T-shirts, those are usually one-off, and comic books, even they're not really one-off. But if I order 15, 20 at a time, then you start to see the price drop. Also, it's ComicsGate, so I'm willing to take the hit for that. For the standees, I actually think it adds to the exclusivity of it. If it's like, well, no, this was for that campaign, and we'll talk about different standees for different campaign. So with the Blu-ray DVD, I think most likely I'll offer it as an add-on perk for the second issue.
Cool.
Yeah, because I think it'll be something interesting, something that people have already spoken that they wanted, and it'll help kind of round out what those offerings are.
I like this idea of having it be collectible standees with each campaign, something different. And there's a lot of creativity involved in your, like the sticker. You have pages I think there are pages in the comic, right, where people can apply the stickers. Yeah. Like kind of create a story. Yeah. Oh, the ash can.
Yeah. Because
it's like,
go ahead.
That's a lot. You have you're really thinking about this thing, big picture. That's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah, the ash can. Well, what I wanted to do was I wanted to make an ash can because I didn't. Well, here's the funny thing. So I didn't want to make an ash can because I was like, they're always crap, right? And usually they're black and white. And I don't mean crap like the art is bad. I mean like the quality of the paper itself. They throw away. That was the whole point of it. That's why it's called an ash can.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to spend the time doing that. But I was like, if I can find a way myself to make it a little bit more interesting and more of a keepsake. So I was like, all right, well, I can do it in color. And then what I found was that instead of actually printing an ash can size, which is just 8x11 folded over, I was like, oh, well, you could like manga style. So like manga size, it's like, I think it's, I don't know, 4x6 or 5x9. It's smaller than a regular comic. So I was like, okay, so that would work, and it's still, the dimensions are a little off, but I thought in a way it would be easier for me to make it because I could have, I have all of the background images based from the cartoon. So I was like, I can just kind of like lay that stuff in there. And then when I started thinking about laying it in, I was like, oh, that's kind of like stickers. I was like, it'd be fun if everyone else can do that themselves. So we're going to be offering sticker packs that correspond with it. And then we have a new rocker sticker pack, which I still have to premiere. That's my fault because it's the $25,000 stretch goal. And it's a lot of the crew in like this rocker gear that you're only going to get to see in the trailer, but I haven't released the trailer yet. So hopefully it'll incentivize people to keep going. But like we're close. We're about 1,900 away from the stretch goal, but sometimes these things are a little slow going. But again, I'm not too worried about it because the what we're going to offer, I want to be able to premiere and say like, what the fuck is that?
It's a car alarm going off somewhere outside my place. And it's like, you never know. It could be 10 seconds. It could be fucking 5 minutes. So, yeah. No, I think it's just people outside even are excited about Hell Salad. So they're like,
yeah,
they're walking on cars and shit. It's getting crazy out there.
oh my God.
So, yeah, this is that time in the campaign, where it's kind of you had that huge launch party with Michael Bancroft, and that was really fun, man. I think that how did that come about? You choosing Michael Bancroft?
I didn't know I needed a launch party, to be honest with you. So that's 100% credited to Bancroft because he had asked. And then I started getting people asking in the chat on one of Ethan's show, you having a launch party? And I was like, I don't know. I guess I hadn't thought about it. I was like, I was just going to post the link. And everyone kept telling me, like, no, you need to have a launch party. So I had asked Ethan if he wanted to do it. And then I guess he was, well, he I don't know, he was doing something that day. But then I didn't hear back. And then he said that he'd have me on later. I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, it definitely wasn't going to be able to happen on EVS's channel. And I was like, okay. So Bancroft said, if he can't host you, I will. I said, okay, that's great. So we did it on his channel, and it was pretty successful. I mean, in the first day we made $10,000, and the second day we made another $10,000, and then we've been just kind of like slowly getting in, I don't know, $3,200 so far since it's slow and incremental, but it's definitely moving upwards. So that's that's the point,
right? And are you doing a second 30? 30
yeah,
days?
we're going to do a second 30, and I have some special add-ons for that too that are going to be pretty awesome. So I think that if you haven't bought anything now, you could still buy some stuff. But I think I might take down the standees for phase 2 because we have different standees coming in, and I kind of feel like, well, you had 30 days to get the first set of standees, so I need to incentivize someone somehow to say like either buy now or pay more later. So it's a lot of marketing,
and it's this thing, how to do these crowdfunding campaigns. It's always evolving, and of course the logic is you get the excitement at the front and the end, but once it's kind of known that you're going to have the 230-day,
I know it's a tough thing.
It kind of creates this thing where, well, we know that it's not really the end. So that it's maybe the first few times it worked really well, but so then you're like, okay, maybe on the second 30 we should offer something new or try to build that excitement again. But then there's always that possibility it could annoy people that backed early if all of a sudden there's something completely new offered that they feel like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah, that's something that I've been struggling with, but I think I found a really happy medium, and I think the way to do that is to almost run 2 campaigns. So the first 30 days will actually offer different stuff than the second 30 campaign. Like the main stuff will be there, right? The hollow foil print, the new stand edition, the T-shirt, that'll be sort of evergreen. But I think a lot of the other stuff I'm going to have to take down. Maybe that's the standees, maybe it's even the painting. I'm trying to think what else we have.
Do you want to share the screen yourself so you can kind of, you have a lot going on here, and it might be easier for you to control what we're looking at on the screen than me trying to like figure out what you're talking about. It's up to you, man. I'll do it if you want.
You could do it because honestly, I only have one screen here, so I don't really know what I'm looking at once I'm sharing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, do you know what I'm looking at?
So what are the things that might go away at the end of the first campaign?
If you go down a little bit. I think okay. So you have these two Wave 1 and Wave 2 standees. I think I'm going to drop those.
So if people want to get these particular collectible standees, they might want to get them now before the 30 days runs out.
Yeah, I mean, so what I might do is offer a big package, and it'll have, because we have 7 new standees coming in. I haven't announced what they are yet. So I might do something at the end, maybe the last week or so. We can buy all 12, right? But it'll be more expensive, obviously, and you won't have the option to pick and choose who you want. And that's really because I kind of feel like, look, you had 30 days to get it, and I do got to get these orders in. So I think that's plenty fair, and I'll probably make that announcement kind of soon.
Yeah, that's cool. The standees are great, man. I mean, I maybe question a little the EVS naked standee. Like this one, like I get a sense that EVS doesn't quite know how to feel about it either. Like, did you guys talk about size, like how we wanted to be represented there, or
I said it like an A, B, and C, and it was just like different lengths of black squares. Like, you choose. So
is it going to be an actual black square?
It is, yeah.
It's not going to be an actual cock in your face.
Yeah, with a little piece of electrical tape over it. No, I'm not.
I'm making a refund here right now.
The EVS standee is still. I still have to decide what the tier is going to be, because right now we don't have a goal set for him. That's why I just call it Goal X. Because I have an idea for a different stretch goal that would be Goal 4, but I need to see how well the campaign does, because ideally I'd like to make the Sparkle EVS 50,000, which I think is possible to do, but I still need to make sure that it's a possibility, right? Because I don't want to offer it and then have it not happen. Then it looks like sour grapes. So.
Right. No, I get that. It's this is one of those fascinating things that's because it's born of fandom. And here's the sticker thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, you can get an idea of how it'll come as a complete comic, but then you can kind of change some of the scenes out and add some extra stuff like a color forms. So you can say this is cool, or maybe I want to make Cecil eat this salad here or whatever.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really fun. Now, what's the humor going to be like in the book? Is this definitely adult only content? Is this something that could be kid friendly, or?
That's a really good question. I haven't completely decided yet. I think what I might do is the opposite. I think I'll make it's really tough because some of those stickers, the sayings are clearly X-rated,
Right.
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 How do you avoid that? What I might do is I'll make the sticker book X-rated, or not X, but R-rated, and then I'll make the actual comic itself like a PG-13.
Gotcha.
Because should that go into some mass production or publication later on, I don't want to change anything, but I definitely don't want to, the sticker book is sort of like a novelty. A couple years ago, they started doing these adult coloring books. I think they did one for Die Hard, and they did them for a couple other movies. And the whole point was it's a coloring book and the art is fun, but they're of very rated R movies. Right. And I kind of see it kind of in that category.
Yeah, where it's almost like you could see an appeal there for kids, but then it's also, it's based on you're pulling stuff from Jack. Do you pull more stuff from Jack Show or EVS streams?
That's a really good question. I would say, because I actually haven't really thought about it, but I would say it's got to be 60-70% Jack Show.
Yeah.
Because that's really where they get together. That's where they have the majority of their back and forth. Usually, if I pull anything from an EVS stream, it's sound bites, individual sound bites. Yeah. He talks about this or he talks about that. He's not as, I want to say, loose on his own stream because he has a very clear goal. It's we're going to sell Cyberfrog and talk about SJWs.
Right.
and it's it could be hilarious in its own right, but at the same time, it's because it's so structured. Usually you only get a stream where everyone's having a good time, maybe once or twice a week at that, maybe less. And then there's so many people on the stream that it's drunk, or it's actually really hard for me to get audio if there's more than 3 people on a stream, because people talk over each other naturally.
Oh
So,
yeah, that's gotta be, dude. That's gotta suck when it's like, oh my god, this would be perfect, but somebody broke into it at the last moment, or
yeah, there's been a couple of instances. But
are you ever tempted to just like message them and say, can you, on the next stream, can you just say this line? And then
I've done it. I've done it not
have?
because someone talked over him. I've done it because I just couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And I had to have him say something about gay ops once, and I
Right.
couldn't find a good stream where he said it. And I know I've heard it. I've heard it a million times, and I've heard him say it. People were sending me clips where he was saying it. The problem was he was very serious, and it's a jovial show. So I was like, no, I need it where he's kind of like joking about gay ops. I can't just have it be like fucking gay ops. That's not gonna
Right.
work.
Right.
So I had to. What do you call it? Super chatted. He was on the Jack show, so everyone was a little bit more subdued. And and he said the line. It worked out great. So
Nice. I want to say, and Dino is here, so I'm expecting some true ravaging.
I
Some
think
true
everyone's a mod.
high quality insults.
I
What
see
the
here.
fuck? I'm a mod? Yeah, of course you're a mod.
But if you
No,
look
I
at the
didn't make
chat,
that
it's
mistake.
just mod.
All the superhero insulters of ComicsGate automatically get wrenches. That's how it works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they can misuse them however they see fit.
Yeah, they're gonna start canceling each other. See you, Zayd.
So, yeah, man, it's Zayd Comics mentions the colors in the book. Now you're a one-man show, right? You're doing all of this shit.
Yeah. I have a color palette put together. It's the Hail Salad color pack. So it's like I don't know. There's like 30 colors in there, and it's
Jesus
like,
Christ, what are you, fucking Nike?
well, that's I come from branding marketing. I used to work in Manhattan, and that's what you would do. Like when I was really young, when I was still in college, I worked at Hasbro for a little while, and you would have what's called a style guide. And the style guide is like, these are the colors. These are the colors that we're using. These are the logos we're using. This is the art we're using.
And you will burn in the pit of hell if you. These.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the reasons that those style guides were initially created was because that was what the printing press allowed you to do. So if you look at, like, I know DC has one they've released recently, and it was the style guide of what they were doing like in the 70s and 80s. And it's like, these are the 4 yellows, these are the 6 greens, these are the 5 blues. You cannot deviate at all with whatever colors that you use. So I essentially have one for Hail Salad. And so I'm like, I know, these are the blues, these are the yellows. And if I ever need to go outside of that, I have to make sure that it still works, within, the grander scheme of the show, because you don't want anything to look too weird. I have a character design coming out that is 100% not any of the colors, and it's done very purposeful because it sticks out so much. But there's sort of a meta reason for it, and I can't talk about it now. But like, when you see it, you're gonna be like, "Oh, I totally understand why that is what it is," because it's kind of a sort.
Well, I wanted to hit on that too, because this whole thing is just a meta. It's a meta within a meta. Like it's like a fucking meta sandwich. Dude.
Yeah,
and it's what's really. I wish that I could watch the episodes. I wish I could just like kind of erase momentarily all my knowledge of ComicsGate, all the live streams I've watched, get rid of all the context, and watch one of these episodes without it, just to see what it would be like for someone who doesn't have any idea what this is.
Yeah.
Because I bet they're still really entertaining because it's so random.
I mean, I think I've had people say that there's so much inside baseball, you can't understand it without it. And my counter to that is, I've spent 15 years in documentary filmmaking, so that's why I'm able to, it's all about cadence. It's all about the way people talk, and if you can string that together, you can make these sort of like hilarious sentences. But I would say, in regards to that, like, just because you can, I'm trying to explain how. Trying to explain this. What was the question one more time?
I basically I would love to be able to experience episodes of Hell Salad, having none of. I know all the inside baseball. I have the context,
Sure.
and it's funny because of that. But I actually feel like I get a sense that they might even be more funny if you have no idea, because it's random. It's just going to hit you in such weird ways.
So what I was trying to say, I got sidetracked. Because of the background that I have, I was like, look, I need to make these independent from CG. I think that's important. When I was in college, I had one of my professors was Joey Cavallari, who was an editor at DC Comics. And he would tell us, he would drill into us. He's like, every comic is someone's first comic. So think about it like that. So like, even if it's a part 2, there's still going to be a little bit. Every fucking Batman arc that ever starts is my parents were killed and I'm on a roof, and right? Yeah, Alfred, my trusty butler, yada yada yada. It's like I know, it's fine. So I tried to make the Hail Sal, like, if you pay close attention, we never ever reference CG comics in general. I don't want to alienate anyone. And although there are inside jokes, that's fine, but they only enhance it. In fact, honestly, I think if you don't know what it is, it comes off as a non sequitur, and it's just even funnier, because like there's a lot of shit that would happen in like Aqua Teen. I was like, I don't know what the fuck that means, but that was so fucking random.
Exactly. Yeah, I think Aqua Teen Hunger Force is a really good like association to make with this, because again, I'm sure half of the time, the people creating that, it was always an inside joke. And the real test of it is, well, okay, if nobody really knows the inside joke, is it still funny? Is it going to work?
Yeah.
And I do think I wish I could experience it without all the context and just see what it would be like. Because I think you have a very strong ability to find ways of framing things and putting pieces of dialogue together that, if you know the context, it feels like you're really you're in on it. But if you if you don't, it's going to hit you. It's going to be humor,
Yeah, I think that's the main goal of it, and I think that might even be something at some point I can get to, right? Because right now I'm trying to hit all of the milestones, like the keynotes of things that are happening, right? We have the Preston episode, we have the Donnie Goats episode, we have these episodes where you're like, oh, that was sort of pulled, I'm like Law and Order SVU. These are pulled directly from the headlines,
Yeah.
But at some point, either CG will be up and rolling so much that it's drama free, which could actually happen.
No. Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, sorry. Or I personally get annoyed or exhausted by ripping the headlines, that I just start not catering so much to what's going on behind the scenes. And I think really the first episode does that. The first episode has, contextually zero to do with anything going on in CG. There's not a whole lot there where you're like, oh, this is when John said this, or this is when Cecil did that. It's just kind of just, basic, typical conversation. And I think if you watch that episode, without knowing anything about CG, or even with knowing something about CG, you can still kind of get a basic idea of how it would feel if it was a cartoon alone to itself, versus, part of a bigger group.
Yeah. No, I think you do a really good job of piecing these together. It must be insanely time consuming, man. Like, do you collect do you collect a snippet of dialogue first and kind of script, like get a script in front of you, or do you like how does that work?
Well, it's a tough one. So what I'll do is I'll download a stream that I have made mental notes. Right, I'm like, okay, I remember them saying some funny stuff here, so I'll start playing it, and then I'll make what's called a select. Select an editing term is like when you like create a tiny little clip, and you keep it, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna you've selected it from the chaff, and so I make tons of selects of little sound bites that usually they have nothing to do with each other.
Right.
And then I just kind of put them on another part of my timeline, and I'll do that over and over for about 3 or 4 videos. And then I get rid of everything, put all of the selects together. There's probably about 10 minutes worth. And I start listening to it and literally just playing around. Like, okay, let's move this here. Let's move that there. Let's see if I can make this work. Some of the funniest stuff that I've been able to come up with is actually done the last minute, where I'm just like, I'm almost like emotionally exhausted from doing it for so long. And I remember there was this one episode where I had Frigga jump in front of a train. And I was just thinking like, oh God, if this weirdo was like trying to hit on me, I was like, I would just jump in front of a train. I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's a train coming. And I was like, yeah, that would work. And I was like, I don't know if I could make that work in an animation sense. I was like, I just got to like fill up the blood so much that, I was like, yeah, that sounds funny to me. I was just laughing myself to sleep that night. And that's something that you can't do in a script phase early on because it doesn't rely on any conversation, right? It's a visual gag. So some of the best visual gags, like when the fly eats his own poo, that all of that is just like that. There's no way that unless you like had thought about it ahead of time. Or even when the goat gets launched into space, right? There's no cue for that, right? There's no dialogue for it, so it's kind of happening on a different level. Yeah,
Fuck yeah, dude. Shit, I had a really solid question and I lost it.
Oh, it happens. It'll come back to you.
Yeah, it'll come back. I did want to. This isn't it, but I did want to ask you. Now that Narwhal is,
he's coming.
He's making some appearances on Jack's show, so he's on his way. Is that happening?
It is. Yeah, he's going to be in the next episode. I'm trying to think. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 big player 4. Oh, I forgot about him. 4 big player characters that are coming that are not Narwhal. So they will be in episodes. Let's see, 6, 7, and 8. I have 6, 7, and 8 kind of planned.
Nice. Did you ever consider? I mean, I know it was this really brief encounter, and it seems to have run its course already. But were you tempted to bring Witten into it?
Oh, that's hilarious. So what happened was she was going to be. That's a great question because I like the behind the scenes questions because a lot of people don't ask them. But I had a character model I was drawing. She was I was going to do a Pokemon riff, and it was going to say a wild Witten has appeared, and she was going to be on a stripper pole dancing on the bar next to Cecil.
Yeah.
And she was like a crack hoe, like a kitten thing.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
And I was like, well, there were a couple problems with it. She was going to be in the Donnie episode, but there was already so much going on there because I had Wanger introduced in that as well, and I was like, well, the problem with it were a couple of things. One, she was so new to CG and Jack's show. I was like, she might not get the joke or even see it as like a form of, I don't know, she would be honored by it, that's for sure, right? She'd probably think it was an assault, and I didn't want to, scare the person off.
She did seem really fucking cool and quick to understand. The little bit I saw of her, but you're right. I mean, it could go either
way. You just don't know, you just don't know. So I was like, yeah, maybe I need to give it a little bit more time. And also I'd be doing myself a favor because I'd get more sound bites. But the other issue, and this was actually really the main issue, was she was streaming through her phone, and her audio was fucking terrible.
Oh,
so I don't
right.
think I had one good clip. I had a
Right.
bunch of sound bites, and I was like, yeah, I can't use any of these because she's popping or hissing or cracking. And I was like,
Yeah.
these are worthless. And
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I'll shelve it. And
Well,
you know,
I mean, this is just, I mean, the thing that pops in my head instantly is just, well, maybe you could have made that part of the, like she was calling on an old, like World War II radio or something.
yeah, I mean,
I don't know,
at
like,
some point, that you still want clean audio.
No, I get it.
It's the editor in me. It's just the only time I made an exception was with Kelsey. That's why I put him in that dome, so it sounded like there was some type of reverb. But I was like, I can't do that. And also, I mean, I've toyed with the idea of because they would talk about Witten a lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could just have them talking about her and have her just like on the fucking screen doing whatever. But I was like, again, it's not as good, and
No.
I'd have to be so reliant on making that so many visual gags that if I don't know her and I make her do some ridiculous shit, I don't want to offend anyone. So I was like, let's.
You don't want to offend anyone. I find that impossible to accept or believe.
well, look.
Come on.
When I first started this thing, I got a message from Doug, and he was like, take me out of your cartoon. And I was like, look, man, I make a satire cartoon,
Yeah.
I was like, and if you identify with that likeness, that's on you. It's like, and I'm not pulling your voice. I said, if you have a problem with people, doing impressions of you, then you should go tell them. Because, it's all fair game, and I'm not, really pulling your likeness in any way. So
Good for you.
Yeah, I was like, that is ridiculous. And, but I also feel like at the same time, and, maybe he can disagree, he should be honored. And I genuinely mean that, because it's like, I don't pull any punches. I have made Ethan do some ridiculous shit. And yeah, I've made the Doug character, poo all over the place. But at the end of the day, it's like everybody is gross on this show, right? I mean, it's just
no, they're all fucking scums. Except,
yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Maybe Malin is.
Well,
because he really
I can't
does
animate him.
Yeah, I mean that's it.
But
it's. I don't think Malin drops all that many punchlines, so it's probably difficult for you to give him the true comedy moment is probably hard for you. Have you found that difficult?
Yeah, well, I kind of see a lot of the characters. I see it honestly like an episode of I've made a lot of comparisons, right? I've been like, oh, it's like Space Ghost or it's like Pee-wee's Playhouse, but honestly, I see Seinfeld in it, right? Because I see Doug as Kramer, and I see George as Cecil. I see Elaine as Anna, and I see Ethan as Seinfeld. So we're all terrible people. And just sort of the back and forth that they have, and I was like, yeah, it all kind of works in that level. And Seinfeld's one of my favorite shows, so everybody pulls a little bit from the stuff that they like, and it's almost like you can't not do that. So, but the way that they all riff on each other too, there's a lot of love in that. And quite honestly,
I do hear you, like from Doug's. Going back to the Doug thing, it's like. I mean, I understand, like, things didn't end well necessarily. Like, it was there's a rift there, whatever. But I think things evolve and things are changing and people are understanding, like, maybe it wasn't all this way and all that way. And everybody should it's like, these are characters. These are people with, they have a pull, they have a charisma, they have a presence. And it is kind of an honor, And it's too bad that he can't. I know. I mean, I guess there's a more negative slant to the representation there, obviously, and that's built into it. But at the same time, it's fucking funny, dude.
Yeah, I mean, look, what is the consistent theme between all of their dialogue? Is that everyone is a closeted homosexual. That's literally what it is in every, that's the secret of the joke, right? And that is something that is just honestly because of the conversation, the dialogue that they're giving me.
Yeah.
I'm like, so that's what it is, if you are saying this, then that's the joke that I'm going to roll with, and it also works visually. So and that's why, there's the gay ops, and that's why they call Anna a lesbian. Like, there's a lot of shit going on there. That's why Kelsey has the whipped cream nipples, and Frega's in a dress. Like, in fact, when you say it, it's so fucking obvious. You're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
dude. Well, I love that. What made you make the connection with Orangutan to Kelsey? Because I don't think he was even part of that.
No, I had people asking me to get him in there, and
Yeah.
so I was like, I got to do something here. And I had, they were talking about in one episode about how hairy he was, and I just remember laughing so hard a couple days earlier at the orangutan bit. I was like, that was so fucking brilliant, and I was like, I think I can play off of that, but I'm going to use it as the tagline at the end, right? As sort of like the what do you call it? The punchline.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, so that'll be great too, because I'll actually have a reveal. Because when, again, the inside baseball, the joke is that Anna fell out of her chair. And so I was like, oh, I'll have her slide off of Kelsey's knee and just, like, hit this, because she's a dummy, not in real life, but like a ventriloquist dummy. So there'll be like a hard wood clunk. But then what does it do? It also reveals the pie that he's been holding the entire time. Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so it all kind of worked together. And this is a kind of weird thing, but like, I also looked for color palette, and I hadn't had an orange character yet.
Oh yeah. No.
So I was like, oh, that actually kind of works.
Yeah, and now, on the it really does. It really helps the covers as well, having that distinction there with his character. Like, where I see him, it really fucking pops.
Yeah, and he's the only one who's orange, and I have a yellow character. I'm trying to think what I have coming out. What's his name? The Doug is blue. And then Cecil is, I don't know what Cecil's all over the place. But I have like a golden character coming. I have a couple of different like shades of green. I have a black and rainbow character coming. So there's, as long as they don't look too similar together, there's plenty of room to make something, somewhat different from what you've seen before.
Yeah. Dude, it would. Do you remember the guy who came on the Jack show a while ago? He was kind of like, he's like that big buff guy, and
I follow him. You guys hilarious.
What's his name?
I can't remember, but I definitely follow him.
Dude, I almost feel like that's worthy of a guest, like a guest appearance on an episode, because it was just so epic, dude.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm not opposed to that. What the nice thing is I have lots of ideas, and as long as they keep having guests on, then I'll always have.
I think it's important. I think Jack Show should. I think they should keep having. You bring at least one person in there every show. I think it adds a nice, because it becomes unpredictable at that point. It's like an unknown is brought in, and you don't know how this is going to play with everybody. It's fun.
It's kind of like was it the 70s, the 80s? Like the Muppet Show. Like they always had a new person who was kind of brought into the mix, and how they reacted to all the other Muppets. So it's like, who is this week's new Muppet? Who's this week's new guest?
Was it Jason Frank? Is that the guy's name? Does that ring a bell?
I don't think so. Oh, I see what you say. Maybe it might have been him. I thought you were talking about the Muppets. I was like, no.
Sorry, the chat is kind of like, how delayed it is on this.
Yeah. It might have been something like that. But that was one thing that I realized after episode 2. Like episode 2 had Zach in it, but not to like the end. But there's a lot of just conversation early on. It also made me realize too that, for the first episode, that was okay to have just conversation, because everything was so new and everyone needed to process it and take it in. By the second one, it started to get stale. So I was like, okay, I need to start adding more visual gags, and actually just visual interest, right?
Yeah.
And you do that by creating new characters and new backgrounds. So now I have pretty much like a mandate that every episode will have at least minimum one new character, one new background, if not 3 or 4. I think episode 5 was fucking. I mean, that was the war and peace of.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Now,
Jesus.
did you take it to heart at all that people were saying like maybe it was too much, like it was like it was a little too stuffed?
Yeah, I think. How should I put this? You can't please everyone all the time. And for all the detractors that we had, we still had 2 to 3 times as many people who thought it was the best episode we had done.
Yeah.
Or I say we, the royal we, but that I had put out. And, I had actually kind of come to this really interesting sort of epiphany moment as I was making this about like the success of sequels. And what I had found was that like when it comes to sequels, like, so let's say the first Batman Begins. Okay, we'll use Batman as an analogy. Batman Begins comes out, and people, let's say you're not comparing it to the previous films, you're judging it on its own merit. You're like, okay, this is where my personal bar is, and now I think that this is an A movie. So then The Dark Knight comes out, and it's clearly a better movie by a lot of standards. So it gets moved to for a lot of people an A plus. Then The Dark Knight Rises comes out, and then it becomes sort of a personal preference because it's like you have to pull the things that you already like from the first 2 movies, and you have to say like, well, what I like about them versus what I don't like about them. So you can't judge specifically and say, well, this person likes this and that person likes that, so I don't necessarily know which way we're going to go. That's why there are focus groups in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like,
right.
Well, we kind of need to guess the direction here, and you just hope to appease as many fans as possible, but there's no way you can. That's why trilogies in Hollywood, the third one is always considered to be the big divide movie, because it's really hard to nail that. And so knowing that going in, you kind of take note of, okay, so a lot of the fans like this aspect, or a lot of the fans like that aspect. And in the end of the day, really what counts is the views. And I think you have to do it proportionately. You have to do it by, when it came out versus how long it's been out and how long the episode is, and how many likes you get, how many comments you get. And that episode technically still performed better than the second, third, and first, second, and I think 4th episode. So it's like,
So you take it with a grain of salt. It's like,
you got
what is it? What are your feelings? Like, how are you feeling? Like when you've got something ready, you launch it. Do you still have that like, what if this is the one that it just fucking fall on my face with? Do you feel that? Is that like a thing? Do you still feel that like it's a possibility, or do you think you have it like the rhythm and formula kind of figured out?
First of all, I don't think there's an artist in the world who doesn't feel like that.
I know. Yeah, exactly. It's horrifying.
It truly is. But what I do is I just genuinely feel like I refuse to put anything out that I wouldn't myself want to watch.
Yeah.
Or even with my comic.
It's hard because through the process of making it, you've seen it like how many hundreds of times. Like it's just. It's almost hard to like get the distance on it to even view it that way.
I think for me, I think that's sometimes where a second editor can come in, and kind of like for example, like some people said like, oh, it might have been better to have Cecil like do like a voice modulation when he was the cops. Yeah. But then I've had people watch it and they didn't know that Cecil was the cop's voice because because they don't know who Cecil is.
Yeah,
so it's like if you go in knowing that, then it changes, think about The Simpsons. I mean, how many characters are done by 1 or 2 people, and some of those characters do sound a little bit similar. I mean, not all of them, but some of them do. But it doesn't ruin the cartoon. So again, that's like another thing you got to take with a grain of salt. Going forward, would have I maybe made them talk through walkie-talkies? Maybe. Would have it changed the cartoon too much? Probably not. It only would have been an issue if I had the cops on screen talking at the same time Cecil was talking. then it would have been actually kind of. But because it's disparate from the scene, I think it's easy to say like, okay, that's clearly somebody else. But you know, yeah, you put something out, you hope that people like it, and then you take note of that. I can tell you this: I'll probably never do another 6.5 minute episode again.
Yeah, that's that's your longest episode to date.
I mean, it's a full like arc, right? It's a full 3 acts, and then there's a cold open. What I think I'll do is I'll probably like, because there's certain things that I learned from it. I was like, well, I like the idea of the cold open. I think that works. So I'll keep like maybe a mini scene in the intro, but then I think for the rest of it, I'll kind of truncate it and kind of do close to what I was doing in episode 3 and 4. You know, because you don't want to go too long, and as soon as you start going too long, because the animation is so crude. It's like, unless there's some really driving conversation here, it's just kind of like, what am I watching? It
totally services exactly what it is. It never occurred to me that the animation was crude at all. It wasn't a thought because I know what it is. That wasn't like, I wasn't like, wow, the animation's really crude. No, it's exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah,
like,
thank
you. Never felt that. I
mean, you try to find. I think the reason that it's done as well as it has is that it's kind of unique in the way that it's being animated, right? I can't point to a whole lot of other things out there that look like it.
Right.
I mean, like you can say like, oh, well, it does look like Space Ghost, or it does look like Aqua Teen. It's a very like kind of flat image, and the characters just kind of like move from side to side. Yeah. But with all the particle effects and all of the sort of filters and the stuff that I'm adding to it in Final Cut, the idea to make a cartoon in Final Cut offers its own sort of unique visual aesthetic.
Yeah.
That can't be replicated unless you use that certain software. Whereas I think many 99% of the cartoons that come out, especially ones that are, whether they're mainstream or for YouTube, they're using an animation software. So everything inherently will always look alike because you're using the same tools as everybody else. So I think that's why it's been able to kind of separate itself a little bit and not feel like, just the same old, tired stuff that you've seen, especially in, I don't know, computer animation or 2D conversion for the last 5-10 years.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna venture a guess about somebody you might be bringing to the table, and I know you can't tell me, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I think we might have a heels versus babyface coming to the mix. I mean, I'm just saying, and I would love that, dude, because who doesn't love that guy? He's fucking brilliant. I love his videos. He gets this guy has passion, man. He's passionate.
Yeah, so. I will neither confirm nor deny. However, I will say this: next Saturday at 1:00, I will be on their show.
Oh, beautiful, dude!
Yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, it's obviously not going to move the needle like you being on this show, but
can the needle go backwards?
Yeah, you might want to check for refunds after this show. But all the same, congratulations. That's a great, and I love that. As what I've found really interesting about ComicsGate is a lot of the people I was a fan of before CG, like and a lot of people making content that I kind of connected with. As CG has evolved and become what it's become, I'm seeing these people that I was already sub to and fans of connect with CG and become like they're in the mix. They're supporting CG people, and it's like, of course they are. Like this, it attracts a certain kind of people that we want creative freedom. We believe in we believe in these things. And so it makes a lot of sense to me that it's all all these people are coming together in these really cool ways, you know?
Yeah, that made me think of a couple things. You know, like when they canceled. You know, a lot of people don't know this. They actually canceled straight up Aqua Teen, and the guys that were running it, you know, that were doing the cartoon, were not super happy about it. I guess they got a new CFO in, or director of, you know, programming or whatever. And so they dropped Aqua Teen, and they were like, okay, we're literally the reason you guys exist, but whatever. And I, in a way, it became, I wouldn't say a blessing in disguise for them, but like, if they had continued to work under the conditions of a guy who didn't like them, because what happened was, if you, at this time in Adult Swim, you started to see a huge trend towards live action stuff, right? And so you had like the Eric Andre show ended up coming out, but then you had the, I'm sure someone in the chat will tell me, there were like 3 or 4, Tim and Eric. Is that what it was? I can't remember what it was called. There were a bunch of other like live action shows that were coming out, and that was the new direction that they were going in. And, you know, they might have been in a position where they're like the Aqua Teen guys, where they weren't allowed to be as creative as they wanted to be. And when I was on Oz's show, a couple days ago, and it's still rendering. I don't know why it's taking 4 days to render.
Why the hell would you do that?
No. That was the weirdest.
It's like I every once in a while I still like I click the link, I start and I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I listening to this?
It would have been like if I want to say something absolutely ridiculous, but I'm not comparing myself to it. But like if Oliver Stone went on Jerry Springer to pitch a movie. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I know I asked to be here, but I don't really know why.
I don't know why. Yeah. I know there's an audience here, and I don't know why. You got fucking right. Like, what's the guy, Rizzy or Rizzy or? And he wasn't there. I'm a drunk, but Jesus Christ, that guy's.
It was me, Oz, and Curtis. I want to say Mayfield. What's not Curtis Mayfield? Micah Curtis. Yeah.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It was a really nice guy. I had never really spoken with him.
No, Micah seems like maybe a little confused at times, but I really like Micah, and I like the projects he's putting forth.
He's put out.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, back on track. Oz had asked me, he's like, what is CG? And I guess I would have to amend that, right? It's really two prong, right? It's a consumer movement, but it's also a creator movement. It's on the consumer end, it's the ability to buy a comic and not feel like you're being proselytized to. But on the creative end, it's the ability to make something and not feel like you have your publisher standing over you saying, like, you have to do this, you have to do that. And specifically when it comes to the rhetoric of our politics that we have here. And I think that is one thing that is great specifically about Hail Salad is I don't fucking have to answer to anybody. Right. Just like, I mean, I had Ethan sitting on a toilet, like, and I think the reason generally you have to have guidelines like that in place for some people is they don't know where to stop. They don't know how far to take it. But I genuinely think if you're like, have a decent head on your shoulders and you're creative enough to make this stuff, I think about like the South Park guys. Have they ever really, really like gone way overboard? Not really. They always know exactly where to pull it back. And so, you kind of look to that for sort of like a guidance or a margin. And because of that, I'm like, okay, I think I can make this thing work without really offending anyone too much. But as long as you pull your punches or throw your punches equally, then there's no one that can say like, oh, well, they really hate this person or, Camel Moon can't stand that person. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get to make what I want to make. And I think that's the most important thing.
That's the beauty, man, is the this creative freedom is it's such a rare artists today, like being able to produce whatever they want without restriction. It's such a rare thing to be able to make the money you need and have that freedom. And I do think this is one of the rare instances. It's evolving into that place where, look, maybe you won't make as much, maybe you'll make more. You don't know. It depends on how good you are at doing this, but you will have the freedom. You won't have the overlord saying no.
Yeah.
And I think it just draws a certain type of person, a certain quality of person, and we're seeing with Az coming in and young Ripa is coming in, and people that just kind of like, yeah, CG is kind of, we're all aligning to this kind of thing, and it's really powerful, man.
And I think, on top of that, it's working in a way that's really, really pissing off the mainstream.
Oh man,
You think about this Tom King thing.
yeah.
I mean, that was the guy who didn't even have his receipts in order before he decided to return his bullshit. And and then he was just like, "Oh, it turns out that I actually already I don't really own this." It's like it's the reason that it's so aggravating is because they only genuinely care because we're making money. If we were a bunch of people just getting together, they wouldn't give a shit. You know what? CG does not go after the mainstream. There's nobody that says, because Tom King works there, I'm not going to buy DC Comics. But inadvertently, that's how it is on the other side, right? Oh, because Frega Boom is part of this thing. It's the whole thing is a fucking hate group now. It's like, it doesn't work like that. You want to, if you're going to boycott something, I kind of feel like, every time you do that, you're doing it strictly for virtue. Because you know what? I don't need to know that you're boycotting it. Just don't buy it. That's all you need to do. Just don't buy it. It's not like they're buying all of these comics.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
So it's just like, so you're only doing it to attach yourself to it. And I genuinely think it's because they wish they were here, but they can't.
Right.
Because if you look into like any type of revolution, or whenever you have certain detractors, they always take on the character traits of the people they're they pretend that they're trying to take down, and it's usually the perceived character traits, right? Fighting fascism by being a fascist. I mean, it's essentially what that is, and you see that a lot.
So fight fire with fire, right?
Right, but it's like, but we're not fighting you. And every time you want to say, "Oh, well, they're attacking women, they're attacking trans women," it's like, motherfucker, we're defending ourselves because there are so many of them who are still trying to take us down. You know what I want to see? I want to see a person of color. Well, actually, let me ask this: can you give me 5 people of color that are anti-CG? Can you? Because the way I see it is a bunch of white people.
Oh yeah, that's a really, dude. I love that point because, again, like any of the YouTube, any of the creators that are black that I watch that I love, like again, Young Ripa is an example.
Yeah,
who's got a fucking tremendous head on his shoulders and is calling bullshit on all kinds of stuff.
Oh sure, and there's more people on that side. So they try to demonize
he's been on AVS's channel. He's a CG fan. He's a comic book fan. It's like, no, what I'm seeing more and more is like, no, it's I don't know, man. I just feel like it's really encouraging. I think CG is growing. I think the thing with Dynamite and Cecil only helped the cause because,
oh sure,
to 100%. An outsider looking in, that looked like censorship, like just pure censorship for no reason. So people who don't know what's going on with all, they're going to be like, why did you, this cover is not offensive in any way, shape, or form. What are you doing? And they're going to be like curious. I think a lot of people have been led to CG through that fiasco.
I think too, it's like more and more people are seeing now with the way that the BLM movement is kind of like falling on its face, that like, okay, you can't, you can't fight this kind of stuff by being just as bad as the people that you're trying to pretend that you're attacking. So they tried to cancel Frega multiple times, and then they're just like, oh, you know what? Yeah, there really is no ammo here. All you're doing is you're revealing your own ineptitude every time, And then, as far as someone said, Kwanzaa, that guy, he's one. That's why I said 5. If it's a movement, if it's an anti-movement, whatever you want to call it, you got to show me more than one person. I need more than one example. One example is, I mean, I'm one example. And
Yeah.
if I'm one example, does that mean that CG is all white dudes with glasses? I mean, is it? I don't think so. You know?
Well, hold on. Disregard the stream you're watching currently.
Well, maybe the stream, but you know, outside of that, you're right. You're right. So two people.
Yeah.
And it's a really stupid talking point. It's like, you need to show me stuff in mass, and if you can't do that, then that's clearly not the case. You get a lot of these privileged people who have. This is my theory. They've failed upwards their entire life, and their behavior connotes a sort of I'm trying to find a way to phrase this. Without just saying that they're completely jelly, but that's really what it is, right? They're not allowed to be as creative as they want, and they really hate the fact that the kid down the street playing in the sandbox is making the sand he wants, and they're at home doing math equations. It's like, but you made that choice to do that, and you know now you're going to label us a hate group. Like, it's literally the saddest, stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's just like, you have literally no idea what you're talking about. It's literally just finger pointing and name calling at that point. You know, and then if anybody ever decides, like, oh, I'm going to try to debate them on this, you know, they clam up, they walk away. They're like, I'm not having a conversation about that. You know, it's already known. What does that mean? It's known.
No, it's known. Don't convince me otherwise. I know.
And I think that's
And Phil, we know. Phil, we know you wouldn't cover up your sexiness with glasses. We understand this. You're CG's sexiest fucking creator. We understand. You wouldn't be caught dead in eyeglasses.
But let's say, for argument's sake, there was a onslaught of fans who did the same thing to Dynamite. They're like, well, I'm not buying Dynamite books anymore. Of CG fans, he said, I'm not buying DC books anymore. I mean, what do? Do you fire Tom King? You know? Yeah. And I think, you know, the way that he backpedaled makes me think that DC must have gotten in his ear.
I think
like,
so, dude.
I don't care how the fuck you spin this, but you got to pull that back, because you're trying to represent us. And quite honestly, if I was running a company, I don't care who the fuck you are, and you start a beef with someone on the internet, especially someone that has legitimate talent, creators, and a backing, I would fire them on the spot.
Exactly.
I was like, you are here to do work. You are not out there, you know, to virtue because you got in an argument with your wife and now you want some fucking woke points. Get your dick out of your own ass.
It almost seems like,
and do your job.
I think it's encouraging. Like, I think it might be right. I've heard people theorize, like, Tom King got a little smackdown, and he came out with this little, like, you know, follow-up tweet, like, no, it's all good. He didn't even know, whatever. I think he maybe got a little, don't stop it. And I think this is going to start happening more and more. The SJW people who have been used to just running their mouth, I think the rug's about to be pulled out from under them, and they're not going to be able to do it. I don't think most of them probably won't be able to adjust to, like, not being able to speak shit.
Well, they are going to have to learn to do that. And on top of that, you know what? It shouldn't be that hard, because for, you know, the idea of being able to say whatever you want randomly is actually kind of a new phenomenon. You know, it's because, especially with certain people, because they grew up without the internet and they don't know how to use it, you know, so they're just like, I can say what I want. There's no, like, real comeback. Like, would you go at Comic-Con in front of a panel and say that? No, right. You would never do that. So think about it in those terms. And it's like, if you are not willing to say this in a public setting where you are, you know, personally accountable and physically there, then don't think that you would say this on the internet and, you know, like that's like an okay thing. You know, there's this huge disconnect. And I think that more and more people, if they get called out for it, what'll really happen, I think, is that eventually someone will get fired for it. They'll get straight fired for it. And then that'll actually put the fear of God in most of these.
Oh, yes. I think we're on the precipice of that. It may be, you know, maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I'm starting to see a slight shift in the waters here. And it's about to happen. And we're just, you know, I think the big thing I hope for with ComicsGate when this happens, because it will happen, the companies will pull the rug out from this. I hope we handle it well and I hope we don't overdo our celebration about it, because there's nothing less attractive than like dancing
Floating.
on corpses.
Yeah.
Like, just let it happen. We can rejoice. We can be happy about it. But like, let's not fucking like go overboard with that celebration, because ultimately we know we're victorious already. It's already happened. So,
one thing I will say though is I don't want any of those motherfuckers here.
mm-hmm.
I don't want any like turncoats, anyone who's like, hey, I messed up, I'm so sorry. But I kind of have this book and I've seen the wrong in my way. Get fucked. Go away. Go start your own thing. You know what? I tell you this: if suddenly there was like Tom King, through whatever fucking means, became ComicsGate, I would leave the next day, without a doubt. I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, now you've become the villain.
It's impossible. There are people that have their slights have been so egregious that it's impossible. They've closed.
That would happen.
It's impossible. Yeah, that can't happen. Stephanie Renee, I'm so happy to hear that. She's received with open arms by CG community, and it's like, yeah. And this is you hear this all the time. People that are like, I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure what CG was, and I dropped in here, and it was just, people were gracious. They were generous. They welcomed me. They invited me to be a part of this and that. And it's like, just take a moment and try, because CG is the least, like, we are so willing to embrace the next person, whoever it may 100%. Be. And it's like, I think a lot of people are realizing that, and it's like, whoa, this isn't a hate group. This is maybe one of the most welcoming, creatively open groups I've ever experienced.
And there's no purposeful try to like even if you're not the best artist, you still might end up with 300 emails. Mm-hmm. Like, there are still people that are willing to support you and sort of nurture you to get to a point that maybe you want to be at. And as much as, but in a way, it's still also a meritocracy, right? Because it's still like, well, if you have some fucking kick-ass art and you get out there and get your book in front of people, you're going to make maybe 5-6 figures. So I think that when you see that kind of stuff, again, it infuriates the other side, because, think about someone like Eric Weathers, right? Eric Weathers this year, after his fulfillment, after taxes from his book, he's probably going to pull in about $50,000 from one comic.
Yeah.
And now imagine you're some dipshit editor who's pissed because your Wokey book isn't sold 2,000 copies and no one gives a shit, maybe less, probably less. And it's getting torn apart on the internet, and you're like working on it every day, and you have 12 of these motherfuckers you got to put out, and you're making, I don't know, $45,000-$50,000. You're making the same amount of money, It's like, yeah, you know what? You're published, and you might want to wear that as a badge of honor. But these people only care about fucking money. Of course, they only care about money, you know, because if they didn't care about money, they wouldn't care about CG at all anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You made a good point earlier that, CG's ability to generate money is like, and we can't underestimate how much this has affected, like, the fact that we have these huge campaigns, EVS with the $1 million, Cyberfrog shit. But, that's this big thing that's exceptional. But having $100,000 campaigns left and right, big campaigns, this is what creates the momentum, the legitimacy, and it's so important to what we're doing. And it trickles down. The smaller creators benefit from this because it builds excitement. It brings people in.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I get a little frustrated that, like, you got to understand that having the big player, even if you don't have to agree with somebody all the time about every single thing they make. They're just a human being.
Yeah.
But if they're bringing that level of excitement into this, understand that it benefits everybody down, all the way down. You know,
I think the other thing too to consider is that, you know, a lot of these people, they're witnessing the impossible happen, and it's infuriating them. Like, we're selling $25 30-page books,
yeah, right,
right?
right.
And it's just like, well, that's impossible. Well,
It's
clearly it's not. Clearly
No, it
it's
is.
not impossible. In fact, in a way, we're valuing our work further than you are by making it this throwaway nothing. So because of that, it's more proof in the pudding that like your method is obsolete. You know,
Yeah.
you think about any industry. The people who are always the most opposed to it are the people who are about to be ushered out. That's going to be mainstream. It has to be. I mean, I don't mean it has to be like for my personal thing, but like very legitly, it has to be. Like, you know, DC and Marvel, I would say ever since CB Cebulski took over Marvel, it just turned into fan comics.
Yeah.
And that's all he's done since. He was a fan. He lied his way into the industry, and then eventually he, you know, lied his way to the top spot. And now they make Netflix pitch books, and that's all they do. Same with a lot of other companies.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that was part of the Dynamite thing too, is that he's got his eye on those kind of things, and that's part of the motivation. Yeah.
And I think the only company that I'm almost not really willing to like talk any smack about is I'll talk smack about IDW all day because I think they're a joke. But like Image, because I think Image still seeks out creators that have full runs ready to go. And they're like, okay, we'll take a chance on you. Like, I don't know you, but yeah, well, let's see where this goes. And a Dark Horse to some degree too, because I genuinely like their stuff. I don't think they pull too many punches with some of the art that they have, or the stories rather. But then, you know, they just lost Predator and Alien to Marvel. So like, I don't know, are their days limited now? I guess we'll have to kind of see. Because I mean, that was their bread and butter. Imagine if DC lost Flash and Green Lantern. You'd be like, "Oh wait, what?"
God, well, you know, it's and CG. The thing about this is like you can't have any weak points. If you're beholden to anything, if you have these weak spots in your constitution as a company or as a creator, ComicsGate isn't for you, man. You have to be free. You have to be free of those weaknesses, because if you come into this with those weak spots, they will be targeted. Trust us. They will be. Nick Barucci found this out. So,
another ironic thing is I think about a lot of these Twitter trolls or the people who are in, the anti-CG group. They would love it in CG.
Yeah,
they would absolutely love CG. They would be able to say whatever the fuck they want.
Exactly.
Nobody would really, tag them for it. They'd be able to make their books, and even if their books suck, people would still buy it. I mean, like the irony is so transparent, and it's just like, you get to be an individual, you get to be unique. You don't have to rely on, dyeing your hair or getting pissed at the camera. It's just like you can just literally be the creator you actually want to be, and not have to play to the corporations and say like, oh no, I'm actually this type of person, and I'm going to spend the majority of my time on Twitter being this person, so that you guys look good, in your audits every year.
Right. Yeah, man. Well, shit. I wasn't expecting. I mean, in contemplating what this show might be or where it would go, I wasn't expecting. We dropped into some really heavy shit, man. And hey, I've really enjoyed it, man. I like hanging out with you. I think you have a lot to say on all of this. I think you have your head on straight. You understand what's going on, and that's really cool. And to be fair, when a person who's able to create humor, comedy, typically is a very complex person. Comedy is a tough thing, and you should. Most of the best comedians throughout history have been very almost kind of tortured people.
We're very astute. Like we
Yeah,
see it for what it is. I always feel, like people ask me like, "What's it like?" And I'm like, and I don't mean this like a condescending way, but it's like it's kind of like that moment in the Matrix where Neo sees all the code,
yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
just like, I see what's happening, and it's
Yeah,
aggravating because it's like y'all acting like monkeys on both sides. I'm just like you're screaming at a giant black rock, and I'm like, you're wasting everyone's time. And I when you can kind of get into the psychology of people, I think that's what makes so many, whether you're George Carlin or Louis C.K. or you name the greats, Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle. These guys are fucking brilliant people. I mean, they're legitly. I mean, they are the philosophers of our time, right?
exactly.
I mean, so it's like because they get it and they see it and they're able to put it through a lens and reflect it back to you and be like, "See how stupid you are,"
That's the
and
thing.
get you to
You
laugh
just
at how
nailed it.
stupid you are.
You just nailed it. Like that's the power of comedy is you reflect it back.
Yeah.
Comedians reflect the shit back at people, and it's so powerful. And the moment you try and I think this is a big part of what's going on is like in trying to kill comedy and trying to make it impossible to do comedy with this SJW shit is like they're stopping people from holding up that mirror and like,
Oh,
well,
sure.
take a look at what's going on because it's so important that we do that.
And they do that because they don't want to look in the mirror themselves, right? Because if they were to do that, they'd have to search into the abyss and find out that the person who's responsible for all the bullshit in their life is staring right back at them.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing you want to hear. It's so much easier to point a finger and say, like, well, I'm oppressed because of that guy. It's like, mother, you're not oppressed. You got running water, you got electricity, you go to the grocery store and you could buy fucking sushi. Like, don't tell me, It's just like, even if you were failing, you'd still find a way. There's enough, like, you're not on the street. There's so much wealth, especially in this country. And I'm just like, I'm so, it's a entire generation of man babies. They got coddled, right? They had helicopter parents forever. And now they're out there in the real world and they're finding out that it's a little bit harder than they thought it was. And that, I can't be the head of industry, because a lot of them, they grew up and they can binge Netflix.
Right.
When I was growing up, you couldn't fucking binge anything. You couldn't. You had to wait a week. Could you imagine telling any of these people now?
Yeah, back in the day, the only thing you could binge is heroin. That's
and I see a lot of junkies.
Yeah.
Or actually what it is too, and you see a lot of virtue signaling on the internet, I would say through means of liking of posts, right? You get a dopamine hit. So it's like, you really want to have a movement. All right, well, tell everyone before they get on the bus for the BLM rally that they got to put their phone in the basket. I guarantee you nobody's getting on that fucking bus.
Right.
If you're not getting cred for it from your peers, then what do you really care? Do you really care? You don't care. You don't care.
Okay, so what I think we've had a really fascinating discussion. It's gone all over the place. What I want to ask you is, what would you're authentically honest? What's the best way for someone to get in on this campaign? What's the best entry point? Is it the featured tier? Did you choose this because this is honestly your best way to get in on this, or is there something else you would recommend?
My recommendation would be the $50 tier is a good tier. I probably shouldn't say it now, but I might as well because I don't want to be dishonest. But really, the best tier is going to be the one I'm going to launch next week.
Ooh.
And that is going to be legit. It's going to be dope. It's also going to be $50. It's going to be a new cover. It's going to be a sticker, the Frega standee, and a lunchbox.
Okay.
And that is like, I mean, that is pretty great.
Lunchbox, dude, it's so perfect.
The lunchbox is dope.
Dude. I love
and you
that.
know what? You know what the image is? It's the one you have as your backdrop. The Dax
yeah.
Marshall.
Oh, nice, dude. I love that.
So
shit.
it totally lent itself. I mean, I put the logo at the bottom corner.
Yeah.
But it's like a brand new cover. It's actually it's really great. It's called the Hail Salad Adventures, and it's issue 420. And it's a mock cover, and it's like, you know, kind of like the kind of issue that you would
420
see.
Lunchbox, dude. Oh my god!
Yeah. And it's gonna have them all
so
fighting a giant like a whale on the cover, and it's done in like the kind of Batman the BTAS art.
That is so awesome, dude. I love that, man. How fun! Did you talk to Dan about that, like up front, or were you just like? You're just like, he's gonna love this shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's called the egg salad perk. It's no, it's just, you know, Frigga has a great following, and he has been so supportive. He's had me on his show 3 times just to talk about Hail Salad.
Dude,
you know?
that guy, he comes on this channel as well. He's one of the most generous, giving, passionate. Fucking the energy he brings to ComicsGate. I absolutely love that he's here.
And I say that about everybody. I mean, like, you know, Malin is going to have another character coming out for Standee, and Cecil, pretty much, if I ever just text him and say, hey, can you post this cover tonight? And he'll do it, you know. So they won't always have me on because they have a full list. But if I ever text them first, like, hey, can I come on tonight? They usually will have me on. So
DJ2K is like, shout out to those who got the day one cover. And there was wasn't there a limited like thing only? Was it the first 24 or 48 hours?
48 hours. And then the egg salad perk is going to be 1 week exactly.
Yeah.
So when I launch that, it's going to end right at midnight of the 30 days.
Nice.
Yeah, so it'll give everyone plenty of time, and then that'll be, again, the only way that you can get the lunchbox and the Frigga minifig, or the Standee, and that cover. Like, everything in that will be exclusive the same way. I'm just giving people a little bit more time, you know, because obviously I don't want people to feel like they didn't, you know, they missed out or whatever. You know, it's different when you launch, but, like, you know, as far as the overall campaign, I want to do better than that for most people.
Yeah.
So we're all.
Well, I'm really, really impressed with your campaign. I feel like you've been a student of crowdfunding. You've watched the masters do this, EVS, John Malin. You're like taking pieces here and there, and you give people a lot of choices. You give a lot of ways to support what you're doing. This is it's a powerful campaign, man.
And also, I approved the proof. So if you scroll down, there's the EVS logo. People love this logo.
It is good, dude. Is this the hold on? Is this with him new
the nose logo?
Yeah. This right here. Okay.
That is a glossy glitter enamel pin. And everybody gets that when we hit 500 backers. So we're about 150 away, maybe a little more. I got to check.
That's
you know, it's
awesome.
funny because it says that I have 350 backers, but then when you actually see the backers on the page, it's like 330. So I don't really know what that means. Maybe 20 of them don't go through.
Has some weird. I think there's some weirdness there with like refunds or like pending. It's all kind of just. It's not immediate, so yeah.
DJ 2K, that would be amazing. That would be really, really wonderful. Thank you. That would be incredible.
Is this what you're responding to?
Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
This better be good. You're gonna love everything. So I'm curious. I came up with, Camel Moon is the camel toe of butt cheeks. I mean, what do you think of that? Is that a good moniker for you? Do you like that?
Well, if I was to have let's say I decided to run a porn industry, I would change it to Camel Toe Poon.
Camel toe poon. Mm,
You know,
yeah.
and then I think you can make an easier, more
Well,
adept
I
comparison.
was like, well, camel. Every time I hear camel, I'm. It's just my mind instantly goes, okay, camel
Naughty.
toe. Then moon is like, the ass. So I'm like,
Sure.
camel moon is the camel toe of butt cheeks. It's like those Walmart photos where you're like people just showing off their ass cheeks, like it's all up in their crack, and it's like, I mean, I'm not trying to make it like it's a horrible association, I guess, with camel moon, but it's just where my mind went, man. I can't help it.
It's okay.
Can't
I
help
think
it.
it's one of those things that, let's say, people ask what Camel Moon is. I've told it on another
Yeah.
stream. I don't remember whose, but
I don't think. Have you ever actually been honest?
oh yeah. So honestly, it was just like it was a naming convention I had to come up with fast because I was trying to get to dinner. So I was like, it was a woman smoking cigarettes with the moonlight behind her. It was a painting I did in Photoshop, so I just called it Camel Moon because I didn't know how to spell cigarettes. So I was just like, like camels because camel lights, and so I was like Camel Moon. And then when I was about 20, I was probably about 20. I was making a film noir movie, a detective noir, with my friends, and we were just kind of riffing and coming up with like nonsense. And I thought Camel Moon sounded. Oh, I looked up at the sky, and there was a moon, and there were two clouds in front of it, looked like camel hump, and it reminded me of the naming convention from the painting that I had done like a year earlier. And I was like, what if we call, I think we were talking about like a restaurant that didn't exist. What if the name of the restaurant is Camel Moon? And they were like, yeah, that sounds good. They were like, it sounds sort of 40s-ish. I don't know what it means, but whatever. And the name of that movie was Murder at Camel Moon. That was the first movie I ever made. And we made a bunch of indie films. And I said, when we get to the 10-year mark, I'm going to change the name of my little company to Camel Moon. And that's what I did.
Nice, dude. No, I like it. It's
it was
very,
not supposed to be a porn reference.
no, I get that. It's a very it sticks with you, Ben. It stands out. There's nothing like it. There's nothing wrong with it, dude. And I know that when it initially hit, EVS was like, I don't like Hell Salad. And I always thought Hell Salad was fucking perfection, dude. Because it's word salad, like you said, it's a word salad, and then it's the hail thing is like built into the whole construct. It made perfect sense to me, dude.
And although I think he didn't like it, maybe it's grown on him, I don't know. But like the fact that he was talking about it to me meant, as someone who had been in marketing, it worked. Like, because we would have these groups and we were like, oh, if they talk about it, because the last thing you want is someone to be like, what was that thing again? What was it called?
Right, exactly. Nobody's going to do that with this, dude.
Yeah, nobody would. It's so easy because it sticks in your head once you get over the initial shock of it. But I always compare it to Aqua Teen Hunger Force or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What the fuck was that? When Ninja Turtles came out, the guy who was trying to push it, like their marketer, he was turned down by every single person. Eventually, they ended up with New Line because New Line was like, I guess we'll make this. We make crap movies. Like, who gives a shit? But like, they're like, it doesn't make any sense. They're taking a huge chance. And the problem with that is that a lot of the bean counters, the people who aren't creative, they only look at past things that have done well, right? Yeah. And they're like, well, right now, I mean, we're doing He-Man. We're doing this kind of like the buff space thing. And He-Man was derivative of Star Wars, and Star Wars was derivative of John Carter, and John, it goes back and back and back. But eventually, it gets to a point where you're like, okay, we got to just depart from all of that, and you got to start with something new.
Kami Mark says, "Camel Moon is a phrase that sounds like it's already a thing. That's always a good thing." So
yeah, that it's funny too because people used to ask what a Camel Moon was, and I would tell them. It always worked too. I would say like, oh, a Camel Moon was a drink that you would order in the Prohibition days.
Yeah.
And they would be like, really? I was like, yeah, you'd go in and you'd say, get me a Camel Moon. And they would say, well, why? I said, well, the moon was moonshine and the camel was the two rocks sticking out above the, so it looked like a camel in the sand.
Right.
They're like, oh, wow, that makes so much sense. I was like, yeah, I totally just got you. That's fake. 100%. That's not what a Camel Moon is. It doesn't mean anything. but I can imagine, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
you're watching that show Boardwalk Empire, and they go in, they're like, yeah, get me 2 Camel Moons. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it could be a drink, just scotch on the rocks. That's all I drink.
So before we close this out, what I would like to do is like give me if you're a fucking whale, if you could just spend any amount of money and get everything that this fucking thing has to offer, what's the tier? What's the thing?
Okay, so we have it's the 2 top tiers, obviously, right? I've done a thing where I try not to. I look at a lot of campaigns, even the campaigns that do really well, and I genuinely get confused. And maybe I'm stupid. You know, that totally could be me.
I think we can rule that out. I don't think that's the case.
Thank you. But I look at this stuff and I'm like, wait, so I get this or I get that. I don't quite understand why this is there or whatever. And unfortunately, I don't have any real examples. But like, so the top 2 tiers, let's say you got both of them. You know, you're at, what is that, $600.
Yeah.
That gets you one of everything. I mean, and if you got the earlier one, then you'd be at $650. And then, but everything is unique. Like if you get, with the exception of the head sketch, nothing doubles up. And I wanted to try to make sure that nothing doubled up too much so that people can go a la carte. Yeah. Because I think that was
so if you get the big salad and the Caesar's Palace perk, is this kind of like that? I mean, is that the jumbo pack that's going to get you like?
It gets you everything. Yeah, it gets you 1, 2. So it gives you 2 new stand editions. It gets you a hollow foil. It gives you a virgin pearlescent cover of the painting. It gives you the painting, which is incredible. I have one hanging, and it sucks because it's one of those things that you have to see it in person. But it's like I've never seen a print. I mean, it's I'm gonna have them when we go to ComicsGate Con because I want people to see them. I'll probably only bring a couple. I mean, I'll bring whatever don't sell, right? You know, because I had to make because I had to order them in quantities. So I was like, I'm not gonna order too many. I ordered 5. And but what's nice about them is I have one, but they're ready to ship. So like when you order it, you'll actually get the painting before anything, like before the comic's even done, because it has to ship out, and it goes straight to your house. I don't even get it. Like you'll just get it.
Nice.
So yeah, you get all the standees, you get the sticker book, you're gonna get, you know, you're way over the $50 mark, so you get all of the stretch goals. And yeah,
obviously you get a sketch.
You get a head sketch. You'll technically get 2 head sketches because they'll be in both of the top covers.
Right.
We had a bunch of 250s. We actually had 5. So unfortunately, I woke up 2 days ago and it was like, you have a $275 refund. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, obviously, you know, you had some wrong think there. I mean, you know, it happens.
Yeah. So, well, they're going to be kicking themselves later. I hope it was for a good cause. I hope it was at least for Maker's $50 tier. so
if you're a broke ass motherfucker like me, how can I get in on this and like feel like I've got what I need. I've got the comic. I've got a piece of this thing that actually means something. Like, what would you recommend?
If you really just want the comic, just the comic, you know, I obviously offered that, and I offered it, which that dope ass cover. So that's, and I didn't want to take away from that cover and offer it as like a hollow foil because I think it actually would have diminished how cool it would have been just to have the cover in general, you know. So I was like, all right, so you can get that cover. That's the $20 tier. But if you want like a little bit like a hail salad paraphernalia, I would wait till next week when we put out the egg salad perk.
Oh, guys, this is such valuable. I got to tell you, this is the first. I don't think this has been announced. Okay, if you're a little bit pressed for cash, if you can't just go all out and get all the monster shit, maybe just, and we never want to like promote holding off on backing a campaign. Obviously, it's not really a good marketing move. But Cal, you fucking put it out there.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it. You did this. I didn't do it. I think because we had such a great conversation, and you're feeling You're
guilty.
feeling jovial. You're feeling jovial.
Yeah.
Maybe, wait for the secondary launch, the next 30-day thing, and there might be something in there. If you have a little bit, if you're strapped for cash, you might be able to get something really beautiful. Right?
No, the week before secondary launch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't want people to get confused. But I'll say this: when secondary launch comes around, a lot of some of the stuff is going to go. So you take that into consideration. If you really like the standees, get them now while you can, because I am
that's
going
the thing I really want to point out is these are limited. You will only be able to get these specific standees on the first 30-day campaign.
So there's the 250 tier. I'm going to swap that out for a different 250 tier.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
Again, note that going in, because I don't want sour grapes. I don't want people to be upset that you have to consider the exclusivity and the fact that the people who did back early are excited about what they backed, right? And I don't want to take that away from them, but I also want to give enough people the choice to say okay, I like this or I like that, but I also can't have 20 fucking things here, because you'd be a mile wide and a nick deep.
I like what you're doing. I think it's I'm going to be curious to see how it all plays out, how it works, because it's a juggling act. You don't want people to feel like, you don't want early backers to feel like there's some kind of animosity there because they didn't wait. Obviously, you don't want to create that mentality. So I think the most special, powerful components should probably go to the early backer. I think that's just kind of an obvious thing.
And then the sitting Ethan. Okay, that's a good example. That will never be offered again. Never. That's it. I mean, the best case scenario is I have 5 left over and I sell them at ComicsGate Con, but I'm not ordering more. So that's really it. And then even if you did find them at the ComicsGate Con, I mean, they're going to be fucking expensive. I'm not going to just give them to you for the same price as all the other ones. So I think this is now is the time to get it. And I'll say this: there's going to be 2 episodes that are fucking hilarious coming out. And the trailer, I am nothing but a humble salad salesman. I think it's going to be one of the best CG campaign trailers ever, because I've been working on it for 2 weeks, and it's all original assets. Not one thing is pulled from the cartoon. So I think it's really going to hopefully pop, and then that'll come out, and that's going to come out in a couple of days. I was trying to have it ready for tonight, but I have too much shit to do. So,
dude, that would have been epic. But I understand. You gotta get it right. You gotta make it perfect.
Because once it's out, right? I mean,
I just want to say I appreciate. I know you're on the campaign trail. You're promoting your shit. You're getting on as many shows as you can, but considering the size of channel that you have access to, I just want to say I appreciate you coming on and
sure,
having a conversation with me, and I appreciate it, man. It means a lot. It really does. And I think that's part of what makes ComicsGate so really separates it from things, is that even when creators hit certain tiers and benchmarks, they're willing to no, I'll go down on this, get down in the trenches with other channels that are just trying to make their way and build up. And I think that means a lot, dude. And I appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's part of it. Unfortunately, and not to completely contradict you, but I've had people ask to be on their channels, and I do sort of an assessment of where their subs are, and I've told them, unless you're at 500 subs, I really don't have the time, because it takes a lot of time, and I mean, this is 2 hours we've done, and that's
energy,
2
dude.
hours.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, and I've said, like, I am not discriminating against anyone outside of their sub count, and you were just under that, and I was like, yeah, that's good. And I already talked to you, so I was like, we're good, but like,
damn you, ink spots! You weren't supposed to catch that. I realized what was happening while I was saying it, like that I was saying I would go down, and yeah, thank you for pointing that out, you piece of shit.
Yeah, so
I'm glad I made the threshold and that you were willing to come on. In a weird way, I feel like I don't know. I feel like this was the most real, engaging, kind of interesting interview conversation that you've had.
Yeah, I mean, the Oz one was interesting.
Oh well, I didn't catch that one. So I think
life.
That. Maybe
I don't know what that has to do with anything. But I don't know. Is Oz CG adjacent? I don't really know because there were like
nobody knows. Nobody knows what Oz is or wants to be or what his motivation. It's like a mystery to everyone.
And I was just like, I mean, look, I can roast you if you want to come at me. I have no problem doing that, because the people who roast you, they either want to be roasted or they're not planning on buying your book anyway. So I really don't care.
Yeah.
But like, I think another thing for me too, when I make a decision, is like the professionalism of your channel. You have a very good aesthetic with your black and white, and you have a good graphics, and it looks like, when when your channel does blow up, it's going to be expected to blow up, and it's going to look like a go-to source for this kind of stuff. So again, there's a lot of factors that go into it. You want to surround yourself by the people that look like they know what the fuck they're doing. So.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. I enjoyed hanging out with you, man. You really, you're willing to go anywhere and talk about all kinds of different topics.
Just not my wife. That was so weird. He was like, so what does she do? I was like, she's a fucking meat packer. Like, who cares? Like, she works at a dentist office. She directs traffic. Like, what is,
Right. People, Back Hell Salad. This is so meta. Again, it's a fucking meta sandwich. It's so compact, and the art looks glorious. I am certain that Camel Moon is going to deliver a fascinating story. And of course, it's a take on the Iliad, right?
Oh yeah, I know we're about to wrap up, but
it's a play on that. But maybe you should give us a little bit on that. Like,
this is actually required reading for the Hail Salad fan, right? Because it's about how everyone met, and you're going to find out a lot of stuff that's going to really help understand why things are what they are, what the arc is, who's on the arc, why they're there, why they have the shoes and all that other shit. You figure it out all in this. So it's like, it's really it's an origin story, but done in the most fun way. It's okay. This is like a ridiculous way to. It's Saving Private Ryan in Hail Salad form.
Okay.
I mean, that's the first scene. You start at the war. Yeah.
Right. Cool, dude. No, I think I'm really glad you decided to do a comic. I think it was the right way to go. Dude,
and I'm a comic artist, first and foremost. I've always wanted, I always have a comic going. I did the cartoon, especially the Space Ghost one, because I had a job interview to do animatics, which is like a type of animation where it's like for storyboarding. So I was like, well, I'll just cut my teeth on this Space Ghost thing so I have a better idea of where to go with that. And then I ended up not getting the job. But then, and I was like, well, it doesn't really matter at this point. But they're like, do you want to do something else? I was like, actually, no, I don't. And I turned down the whole thing so I could start working on Hail Salad.
Nice, dude.
So,
yeah. Well, I hope it does what you need it to. I hope you get there. I think this thing is going to it's going to have a huge surge. Throughout the campaign. I think you're gonna get there. I think you're gonna hit 50K, no problem.
That would be great. Really, and I think if that happens, that'd be good for other, CGers. Like, look at this dude, 0 previous campaigns, right?
Yeah.
Came out of nowhere, and
Yep.
but because he was able to, tap the pulse of what CG was, and create a product that people wanted. I think, if you like who I am, that's great, but I'm not selling my personality here, because if I was, I would do a stream every day. And I'm not saying that that's the way to sell, but I'm just saying that there are a lot of people that buy because they like the person, and that's cool. But I'm really trying to sell specifically the product, and I think the product speaks for itself. I think that, if you like the cartoon, then you're going to like the comic. I think it's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really cool. So everybody, give this a chance, back it where you can. He's giving you basically any level you want to get in at, you can get in at, man. Be a part of this thing. If you just want to get the book. And that's
back it twice, back it 4 times, back it daily.
Thank you for being on the show. I really I had a great time, dude. I think I really enjoyed talking with you. I'd like to do it again sometime.
Let's
maybe
do another show once I have the next perks and the trailer. And,
let's do that. I would really fucking like that, man, because I do think I tend to ask questions that maybe don't get asked, and we go different places. So it's good for you.
I wouldn't ask about Witten.
Yeah. And I appreciate the chat, everybody who's been here, bouncing comments, being part of it, being part of this thing, always appreciated. If you haven't subbed, please sub to the channel, and we'll catch you next time. I'm going to be live again on Monday with Midday Repartee, so be there for that.
Okay.
And we'll